What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hopefully each and every one of you guys is having a great and amazing day. If it's your first time stopping by, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. While you're at it, go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. It does help the channel tremendously moving forward. In today's video, we are taking the supercharger off of the car yet again because we are installing the Joker's intercooler by PWR. So I'm definitely excited about that. We're going to be removing the supercharger, getting everything installed tonight. Hopefully we can get it all done. It is kind of drizzling outside. It's a little wet. It was a downpour earlier, but either way, I'm going to tear into it, get as much done as we can tonight. With that being said, we have developed a problem with the AC system. We no longer have AC. I don't know if I have a leak. I don't know whether it's the compressor that's gone out, so the car does have to go in and get diagnosed for that. Other than that, everything's been good with the car. We've got more revisions since the last time I've made a video, and the car is running much better. It sounds much better. It pretty much stays running at stoplights now, so that's a big thumbs up to Ortiz Performance. He's getting the car more dialed in day by day. With that being said, guys, let's go ahead and pop the hood, see if we have to dry some things off before we get started on tearing it down, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Alright guys, there it is. We're going to start by taking off the intake and then start taking off all the miscellaneous stuff such as the hoses, the belt, all the plugs, and then we're going to take the blower lid off and we'll go from there. So the intake's off. I'm just going to go ahead and remove those hoses right here, and from there remove the pulley and we should be good to pull the blower. And we got the belt off. Now it's time to pull the blower. And just like so, I believe the blower is ready to come off. I got all the electrical connections disconnected except for the throttle body. Just got to disconnect that. So the blower is off. Got the lines off of the intercooler already. So we're gonna go ahead, pull the fuel rails, and then start pulling the front off, then the intercooler. Alright guys, so a little bit of an update. Fuel rails are off, the front bracket's off, just have to disconnect that plug. A few bolts, intercooler's coming out, and then we're gonna replace the brick and move everything over and put it all back together. Intercooler is out. No signs of any gas leak. That's just all coolant, which we'll have to dry out before we put it all back together. And I don't know if you guys remember, but we did have the rear injector leaking and the front one, so we went ahead and replaced those, and we haven't had an issue with that since, thank God. Here is the lower manifold, and essentially what we're going to do is go ahead and remove these. It's just two 8mm, and then go ahead and remove all of the bolts all the way around, and then here's the Joker's one, so we'll be installing that. Alright guys, there is that intercooler brick. This is the stock one. Here's the PWR Joker's one. We're going to check the torque specs on this one because there's nothing listed. Also, you're going to want to make sure that you go through and seat your gasket all the way around. Make sure that it's good, because it does tend to pop up. You don't want that to be leaking on you. You don't want any unmetered error, anything like that. So go ahead and seat that well, and then I'm going to check the torque spec on this so you guys know. And from there, we're going to be taking the bolts out, installing the new one, and we'll compare it and then show you guys. So one thing about these, they have keepers. So you see this bracket here, you're going to want to go ahead and pull this whole thing up. I've still got one bolt here, and they are side specific, so you want to keep them on the same side. So this one is left. Go ahead and place that there, and this one's to the right. So we'll place it on the other side. And just for reference, you're going to want to torque these to about 10 pounds when you put it back in. And while we have everything open, let's go ahead and look at this port job. So here's the difference. Obviously this one's the new one. This one's the old one. Keep in mind when you're reinstalling this, you're going to have to use a dab of Loctite. And when you're taking the stock one out, you're going to have to use a little bit of force to take it out because it is kind of glued in there. So you're going to have to kind of pry it out. Don't be too alarmed about it. Once it lifts, it pops right out. As far as torque sequence goes, again, 10 pounds, you're going to want to work yourself from the middle out. So pretty simple, 10 pounds all the way around. Now that it's all torqued down, we're going to want to go ahead and make sure all our gaskets are good, which I've already pretty much gone through, and made sure it's seated well, and which it is. So we are good to go ahead and put the lid back on, where in this case it's actually the bottom, and torque that down to 10 foot-pounds as well. All right, so everything is buttoned up. We got this hose back on, so time to put this back into the car. All right, guys, so the intercooler brick and the lower manifold is in place. Fuel rails are all secured. Time to put the upper blower on, put the bracket on. Actually, we got to put the bracket on first, then the upper blower, put the belt back on, intake, the hoses, all the little stuff, and then we'll be all done. Pulleys and the front plate is on. Now it's time to, I guess we could go ahead and put the lines on. And from there, it's just the lid and the belt and the intake. All right, so we are almost ready for the first startup. Just have to finish connecting these hoses, and from there we will pretty much be done. Tighten this one down, put that clamp over, put the intake on and the belt, and that's pretty much it. Everything is put back together, everything's torqued back down, all the hoses are put back on except for the intake. I'm going to go ahead and get the first startup, make sure everything's good with that, and make sure the belt's in line properly before we put the intake back on. So let's get that first startup. Here it goes. Keep in mind, I don't have my killer chiller right now. Literally my AC is not working whatsoever. So it's staying at about 91. The car's been idling for about 5 minutes now. It's 52 degrees out. The car is getting up to temperature right now. We'll check back in a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and start putting the intake and stuff back on. So the car's well above operating temp. Keep in mind we do not have a heat exchanger and we do not have any AC in the car right now because the killer chiller is down. IAT2's 109. So just for a test, I wouldn't be able to do this before. It'd be way too hot. Approximately 20 minutes of idle. Again, no AC. No heat exchanger, and IAT2s are only at 117. So now that all that's done, that's pretty much going to conclude today's video. I really can't do too much testing until the killer chiller is solved. What I can tell you is the IATs are significantly lower than what they would have been at idle for that period of time with the stock intercooler brick. Just sitting here, I left the car sit for about 15 minutes or so before starting it again, and I can already tell the IAT2s are dropping. So they were at about 135 when I started the car. Now they're already down to 122. So as soon as I start driving, I'm sure it's going to drop even faster. That's insane. Considering that there's no heat exchanger or anything, this intercooler brick is doing its job. I'm not even driving and the IAT2s are dropping. I'm baffled. I'm definitely happy so far with the Joker's Performance intercooler brick. I definitely recommend it, but before we go ahead and purchase it, let me go ahead and do some more research once the killer chiller is going. Actually, let me drive right now, see how the IAT2s drop, and I'll update you guys before ending this video. So while driving, my IAT2s are approximately the same as what the killer chiller would have been, which is insane. I can't do a pull or anything right now, considering that I'm still on 91 and the ground is pretty wet. But 109, and usually my killer chiller would idle at about between 100 and 110, but I haven't seen it go over like 109 while driving, which is insane. Hopefully this video gave you a little bit of insight on the Joker's Performance intercooler brick. Considering I don't have a heat exchanger on the car, it's doing pretty damn good. It's keeping up. The IAT2s are staying down. Pretty much the system that I have right now is obviously the Joker's Performance intercooler brick, a killer chiller, and an ice tank. So that ice tank is running to the killer chiller to the Joker's Performance brick, which obviously cools the blower, then back to the ice tank, and that's all there is for cooling wise. No heat exchanger. So considering that that's all it has, it's doing pretty damn good. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you have, smash that thumbs up button, drop a comment in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts on the Joker's Performance intercooler brick. Is this something that you'd consider doing? I definitely suggest it. With that being said, guys, if you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. Until next time, I'm checking out.